Okay, so how much information do you reckon that a stranger needs to know about you to favor you over another random stranger? And when I say favor, I mean, okay, they have to choose who to give more money to, more credit in a situation, or, benefit of the doubt. Like that. There's an experiment from the 70s that tried to find the actual flaw on that question. How much information do you actually need about a person to favor them a little bit more? So, they took a group of teenage boys. They were actually all from the same class. So, some of them they were good friends with, other ones they were just acquaintances. But they had seen each other before. They then showed them a cluster of dots, like this. And they flashed for like less than a second. And then they asked the boys to guess how many dots were there. And the thing is, they weren't looking for a right answer, oh, there's 36 dots here. But they needed to give a number. And that number then would sort them into respective groups. And they were just sorted on those groups based upon a guess. So people that guessed overly optimistic that there were more, people that guessed that they were less. And that was the entire basis of the groups that they were put in. This group liked to overguess the size, this group liked to underguess the size. I think you understand how they did it. So this is where the actual test begins. Each boy was taken away into like a separate room or cubicle, whatever you want to call it, away from everybody else. Every boy in the experiment has given a number, and you don't know which number is associated to who. So they didn't know that their friend, I don't know, David was number 3. It was kind of just like a GUID or UUID on people. If you don't know what that means, it's just randomly allocated numbers to people, like a participant ID. And each boy was told that numbers 1 to 5 were in group A, 6 to 10 were in group B, blah, 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 blah. And then, when he was alone in this cubicle, he was asked to hand out bits of money to the respective groups. And with this random association, he actually had no idea who he was actually giving the money to. He just knew that group A he decided to give them X amount of money. And at the end of the experiment, he will never find out who got which allocation of money that he gave. And there was no way for anyone to pay him back for being generous, or there's some kind of corruption there. They kind of eliminated all of that in hopes to be like, he's not manipulating the system so that he can make some money off this. No, he was told, give money to random groups, and that's the end of it. And what's interesting is 84% of the boys still gave more money to their own group anyway. And it wasn't like he was getting more money. It was just the group he was assigned to was getting the money. And that's what's interesting here, is it's not, if he had distributed it evenly, then maybe his good friend David would have got some money, because that just logically or statistically would have happened. But now, because he got put in group A, he was like, group A they're my guys. Therefore, I'm going to give group A some more money. So it gets a little bit stranger. They ran a version of this experiment where the boy could choose to give his group the most money possible. Or he could choose to give his group less money overall, but beat the other group with a wider gap. And you would think that, oh no, it makes sense, rather give his group the most money possible. But they didn't choose that. They would rather beat the other group by more than actually have their group benefit in terms of monetary value on the output. So effectively, they just wanted to do better than that group. So what this tells us is it wasn't really about the money. It's about being better than the other group. And the interesting thing here is the group that they were assigned to, they never actually got to see who was in the group with them. They were completely alone when they made their decisions. And favoritism still showed up. So what do you think would happen if you now, instead of asking them to assign the money in a group, in a private cubicle, but rather in a group? Does being around people make the choice a little bit more fair by the person making it, i.e. favoritism goes down? Fast forward 50 years. There were groups reproducing this experiment all over the world. One set of researchers kept getting the exact results as the original study. great, that's really good science, you would call it, where one group would favor their group all the time. Another group on the other side of the world ran what meant to be the same study as the original one and as this reproduced study. However, they ran it again and again and again, but they got different results. And in academia, researchers would just fight about whose is better, so our two groups would probably be fighting about it. Instead, those two researchers actually sat down together and went through their setups side by side, trying to figure out what was actually different about them and why did they get different results. And they ruled out the fact that they were in different countries and maybe people acted differently. It wasn't where the instructions in one of them was read out loud and the other one they got a piece of paper to read. It came down to something a lot more simple. And it was whether the people were sitting in an open area with the participants around them while they made their choice to split up the money. Or the other group where they were completely alone in a private booth and had to make their decision. When people were in a booth alone, the favoritism was significantly less. But the people that were in the room with the people that they were giving the money to, even without knowing who these people are, the favoritism, it came back stronger. So it wasn't the label or being inside the group, it was the presence of the other that affected the favoritism. Now, I want to think about this type of paradigm in terms of favoritism and strangers. And let's look at comment sections on videos these days. The most entertaining part sometimes of a video is actually the comment section, where someone will pick a side, whether they're in favor of what the creator is saying or they disagree with the creator and they're just saying something completely bad or they're just nitpicking on things that don't even matter. But someone will pick a side, write a comment, and then someone will come underneath it and say the opposite or fight against them. And then this whole spiel gets going. And the question is, why does that happen so easily? And this is me kind of trying to put this on to understand this comment section and talking and fighting and whatever people are doing on usually the TikTok videos. In the experiment we were discussing, the label, it was the first thing they got. And it was almost by accident. It was a big chance of me putting in that group or that group. But everything after that was built around defending that random label or group assignment that you got. And I think something similar happens when we watch things online. You watch a video and then you form an assumption of what's happening in that video or what that video actually just means. And most of the time you haven't really thought it over properly because it's so quick. It's kind of just the first understanding that made sense to you. Then you scroll into the comments and somebody has understood it completely differently. Maybe they had more context on the creator. Maybe they had more context on the situation that was being talked about. Or maybe they had less of both. And then you look at both sides of things, but you're not really weighing them fairly because you're biased, because you've got your own idea of what it meant. And you're looking for people that agree with you. And then, if you so happen to be one of those people, argue against people that disagree with you. In the same way, those boys that defended a group of people they were put into just because of a random dot over or underestimated decision. And the funny thing here in the comment section is instead of, okay, I'm not saying all the videos, fair. Some people you go there to get more context. But sometimes people just have a little bit of a, And sometimes they're treating the other they're arguing against or they disagree with as a side to beat rather than someone to learn from. And this idea of just picking a team or being put into a category, we just innately defend it. It's kind of cute. Humans are kind of cute when you think of it in that way. But obviously it can go very bad very quickly. But there is something cute about that.